let's have a look at how we can generate the different materials. So if we open up our scripts again and we go to our item inventory manager here, we'll see that we have all this functionality inside the start function of the inventory manager to create the different types of equipment. So this means that we need to add some more functionality to this start function where we are serializing the equipment. As you can see up here, mine is from resources.load, and if you want to use the resources instead of streaming assets, you can add this code instead, but you don't need to change anything if you simply want to use the streaming assets instead of resources. Anyway, we need to define what kind of types we can serialize with this serializer, so we can take something from the XML document and transform it into a game object. And as you can see, we already have a type of equipment, the weapon, and the consumable. And we need to add a type for our new added material. So we need to write type of material. There we go. So now we have also defined that we can use the material as a type when we serialize our stuff. Then we also need to define some functionality inside our item container. So if we right click on our item container and go to that script, you'll see that up here we have a list for equipment, a list for consumables, and a list for weapons. And of course we need to add a list for our materials as well. So we can make a new private list material inside our item container script and call it materials equals new list material. And the reason that I made a new list instead of adding it to one of the others is because I would like to have everything in order so I can get materials from this specific list if I want to. And I also need to make a property so that I can access this, or so that it can be serialized and deserialized. So you can either right click on it, click refactor, encapsulate field, and click apply, or you can write this code yourself by writing public list material, materials, and then make a get and set on it, because we need both get and set to be able to do this. So we can save that. So now that we have this in order, we can go to our player, and inside our player script we can add the functionality for getting some what's called materials when we hit a specific box or something. So if we go to the onTrigger enter, see here, onTrigger enter function here, and we make a new if statement here, because all these functions are called whenever we enter, we collide with some other object. So if we say if other.tag equals material, then we should generate some materials, and I think I want to generate 5 of each material, so I get 5 wood, 5 iron, and 5 stone whenever I enter this one. So I'm going to make a for loop, not for each, a for loop, and this one should run 5 times because I want 5 elements, and we have 3 different elements in our collection because we defined those wood, iron, and stone. So we're going to make another for loop in here that runs 3 times, and we're just going to call this one x. And then we should just add the items to the inventory. There should be nothing new with this. We can make game object temporary equals instantiate inventory manager, because we need to access the manager to get the prefab we need, .instance.item object. So now we create a temporary object we can use to add to our inventory. So first time we run it through, we add 1 wood, for example, and this is going to be our wood we're going to add to the inventory. And then we're going to say temporary.add component, and we need to add a item script so that we have a script on it so we can add it to our inventory. And then we're going to say we're going to have a new material actually. So we are going to make an item script, new material equals temporary.get component item script. So we're going to access the script we just added to our game object here. So make a reference if I could spell correctly. So now we have a game object and we have a reference to the item script on the game object. And then we're going to say new material dot item equals inventory manager dot instance dot item container. So the inventory manager, the instance, the singleton instance, and the container with all the items in it. And then we need to access the materials on it. And we need to access index X. So we are saying our inventory manager here, we're accessing that, and then we are accessing, let's see if we can find it, the item container here, we are accessing that, and inside the item container, if we go to that one, we have some different lists here, and we are accessing the list with all the materials in it. And here we are accessing the materials by index X. So first time we are accessing the wood, next time it's the iron, and the third time it's the stone, for example, because this one changes all the time. And then we are going to add the new item to our inventory by saying inventory.add item, new material. And then we're going to destroy the temporary object here. So that is basically what we need to do to be able to pick up our items. So let's try to save this and jump back into Unity. And let's just duplicate our chest and rename it to materials. And then we can go up here and we can move it all the way down here. Basically we don't need it to have this big collision box, so you can remove the collision box and add a new one by clicking on the materials, the new one we duplicated from our chest, right clicking on the box collider and removing it, and then saying add component, add box collider. So now we have one that fits the correct shape. That's always the easiest way to do it. Whenever you remove something, it's always easier whenever you need something to fit, you can just remove it and add it again, then it fits the size. And we need to put it as trigger. So remember to set the trigger here on the new materials here. Actually we can check, let's see, we have the materials here. Try to take the weapon here, because the screen, and drag it onto materials so that the box becomes green instead. So go to a materials folder, drag the weapons or something else, or create a new one if you don't have weapons, and drag it onto materials to change the color. If you don't have it, you can right click, create material, and click here, and then set your color and so on, and then drag it onto the new one. It's just easier to have some different colors so we can differ them up here. So right now inside our script, if you notice, we're checking if the tag is material, and this means that we need to go to our materials here and select the correct tag, because right now our materials is actually tagged as a chest, and we don't need it to be tagged as a chest. We need to tag it as a material. So click the tag button, click add tag, click the plus button here, and then write material. I can't remember if it was material, yeah, not material, so material. Click on the materials again, select tag, and select the new tag here. So we don't need a chest script on it, so we can right click on it and remove it, and now we should basically be good to go. So let's try to save the scene, and then we can run our game. Let's give it a try and see what happens. Okay, so we just got a exception, and I think I made a mistake actually when I added what's it called, inside the item container, when I added the materials. Yeah, as you can see here in the item container script, when we created this list here, see that I made a list with material, but I actually need to make a list with items in it instead. So I need to change this material into item, these three places here. So now it uses a list of items instead of materials. So let's try to save this and build it. Can jump back into Unity, and let's just try to clear the console, and let's run it again, and if we go into this, yeah, so now we have our different materials here. We have our wood, we have our stone, and we have our iron. And these are the three materials we will need to be able to create some items from the crafting bench. So let's wrap this part up here, and in the next part we can start looking at how we can create the layout for the crafting bench so that we later can actually craft some items from our materials.